So this video is going to cover the daily tracking features of the app for the pet owner. So here we'll go into the daily tracking section. Before we do that though, I do want to briefly point this out. When we're talking about all the pet's information, you can make this as thorough as you want. You can put in the patient's birthday and the app will send you a reminder that it is the patient's birthday, so that way you don't forget it. And you can also put in the patient's body weight, which is probably one of the most useful things to input. So I'm going to input that there, and then I'll update the pet. And I'll get into this part of the patient information in a little bit. But you can see that if you put in patient's information, you can go back and edit it. Something else I'll also note real quick is if I add another pet, you'll see that it puts it below where the first pet is. So it puts the pets, when they're input into the app, it puts them in that order. So it's not done alphabetically. But getting back to the daily tracking, again, this had 3 sections, and you can see that I've now subscribed, so I have access to the diet nutrition portion of it. I'll go ahead and talk about that section first. By default, it will take you to the log portion of the app, but I'm going to start by the calculator portion. So I accidentally have Finley as the pet, so I'm going to go back to my pets and click Sophie instead. Now I'll go back to the daily tracking, diet nutrition. So for Sophie, you can see that we did put in Sophie's weight here, and we can see that 10 kilograms is automatically entered because we have that in her information. If you saw for Finley, that information was not there, and so you would have to manually put in the weight. Not a huge deal, just that's one of the benefits is some things in the app that use the animal's weight, it's going to automatically input into that area. Going back to the calculator portion, you'll see that there's the resting energy requirement for the pet, and that's going to be calculated using the 70 times the body weight to the 0.75. And then we also have the maintenance energy requirement multiplier, and that's going to be dictated by the animal's lifestyle. And these are just general guidelines. So if we have an intact adult, you'll see that that multiplier, that MER multiplier, is going to be increased. But for this patient, we have a typical neutered or spayed animal, and we're going to leave it at the 1.6 multiplier. So patient weighing 10 kilograms should get 630 kilocalories per day. Now we can go to the log section, and you see that there's a commercial diet option, there's a homemade diet option, or we can add water and treats. Most people probably aren't going to use the water section, but there are some medical issues or medical conditions where this could be useful, so I wanted to provide it. You'll see here that there's a goal amount of water that the patient should be drinking, and that's also going to be dictated by their weight. And we can see that here under that water section of the app as well, and there's a little bit of information about water guidelines too. Going back to the log, we have a commercial diet, and we have a lot of different options. So there's almost 100 different foods that we've input into this. That's obviously not a complete list, and if there's certain foods you want added, please let me know. But what we can do is search for a specific diet. So in this instance, we'll say that we're feeding this patient a small breed adult Royal Canin, and we can see that it does provide the calories per cup. Now, I will note that these diets will change from time to time. The recipes will change. So always look at the bag to make sure that this is up to date. If it's not, you can change it here, but that's just going to be the standard input for that brand. At least when we were creating the app, that's what we were able to find at the time. So here we'll say that we gave the patient 1 cup of food. We'll add it, and we can see that we've now given this animal 341 kilocalories. If you ended up feeding a homemade diet, you can configure that homemade diet here, whether you're giving chicken breasts, ground beef. We'll say in this instance, we gave some cooked ground turkey, we gave a sweet potato. So you have your proteins on the left, your carbohydrates on the right. And if you scroll down a little bit, you'll also see you have vegetables and fats. So we'll just say we gave them some fish oil, and we also gave them some green beans. any animal or any dog or cat that's on a homemade diet should be getting some sort of supplement. So we'll just say that we'll do Hillary's blend for now, and we'll log that diet. You can, if you know how much kilocalories there are per serving, you can put that in here if you want to keep track of that, because you measure everything out. So we'll just say that it's 320 kilocalories for this animal, and we'll log that homemade diet. Now, if you're feeding that pretty regularly, you can just click add again, and it's the same thing for the commercial diet. You can, whatever was given last, you can select add again, and it's going to put that information here, as you can see. So we have our food log down here if you're wanting to keep track of that. And if you need to edit anything, you do have those options here. So you can edit the time that it was given if you want. You can edit the food type, the calories, make additional notes. If one of the ingredients was changed, you can put all that information here. And then we already talked about the water tab here. And then there's a food section as well. So if you're wanting more information about the macronutrients of the commercial diet you're feeding, then you can put that information in there. And then some just general information about different proteins, carbohydrates, and homemade diets. That information is going to be there. And some very brief information about the different supplements. So when it comes to the homemade part, it is limited as far as the app goes. If more people are wanting more function of the homemade diet portion of the app, please let me know. So the next thing I'll do is I'll go back to the daily tracking and go to the walk log. There's nothing too complicated with this. It's pretty straightforward. So if you're wanting to just time how long the walk is, you can start a timer and it's going to record that. And then once the walk is over, you can select end walk and it'll put the duration of the walk there. You can put in how long the walk was just based on the distance. I'm not doing any sort of tracking as far as GPS or anything like that on the app, just because I'm trying to keep everything as private as possible and not have you worry about any sort of data breaches or anything like that. And again, just like with the pet information, you can make this as thorough or as non-thorough as you want. If there was something that happened on the walk, and say you wanted to record or you did record something that happened on the walk, you can input that here, save the walk, and then that information is going to be saved within the app. So that way, if you want to look back at something, you don't have to scroll through your entire camera roll. You can just look back at the app and be able to find the video you're interested in, or you can just record directly from the app itself. So you can record the walk and it'll record whatever's going on that you're interested in recording at that moment, or you can log the walk manually as well. Going back to the last part of the daily tracking is the weight log, and this part's very straightforward. At the very bottom is just information on different body conditions. If you're curious, most vets use the 1 to 9 Purina scale, and that's just going to be information on that, so you have access to it. And if you're wanting to log your animal's weight, you just click log the weight, you put in the animal's weight, and then it will save the date that you're putting it in at. If you're wanting to backtrack or change the date, maybe you forgot to log it, you can do that here. And another function that I'll briefly go through is if you're logging multiple weights. So say we're tracking what this animal's doing over time. I'll log in a couple dates here. That'll be today. And you can see that a graph is going to be created. So as you add to that over time, then you'll see the curve of the graph change over time. So that's just another feature that you can track. So that's going to be it for the daily tracking. And the next section that we'll go over is the healthcare log.